Hello, my name is Tom Schmid. I'm Roscor's Desktop Product Specialist. The product I'd like to talk to you about today is called Roscor's Guardian Archive Server. This is the big archive with the small price. Customers have been asking us for an inexpensive, scalable, and easy-to-use archive solution for assets. These assets can be from an Avid nonlinear editor, or Apple Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, or virtually any Windows or Macintosh application. The power behind this system is Zendata's software management system. This is a true hierarchical storage management system that allows users to immediately identify the status of their files. The files can be online, which means they are stored in the system's internal 2 terabyte cache. They can be nearline, which means they are stored in an LTO4 drive in the system itself, or offline, which means they're stored on a drive such as this that is not actually currently inserted into the system. The Roscor Guardian Archive Server comes in two models, the XV1 with a single LTO4 drive and the XV2 which has 2 LTO4 drives. This is useful if customers want to have duplicate assets, store one at their facility and one on an off-site location. The current specs on the Roscor Guardian Archive Server are a 2.26 quad-core processor running Windows 2003 server, dual power supplies, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and 2 terabytes of internal cache. The cache is actually RAID protected and has 2 terabytes of usable storage. There is also a gigabit Ethernet connection that the customer uses to access the server. The LTO4 tapes can store 800 gigabytes of media uncompressed. This is in a POSIX tar format, which allows the customer to open up those files without having to have the Zendata software installed on their system. For this demonstration, I'm going to show you a typical Avid workflow. Once again, this can be any nonlinear editor or virtually any Windows or Macintosh application. The user's interface to the Roscor Guardian Archive Server is a simple network-mounted volume. So if you look under my computer and I double-click on the X drive, you will see a series of folders that we have set up. This is how the user has access. So if they know how to use a network-mounted volume, you can use the same rules and the same way to create folders inside of this structure. If I double-click on the Roscor Guardian demo folder, you will see a series of files that I've been using for my demonstrations. These are AAF or Avid Advanced Authoring format. Essentially, these files contain an entire sequence from an Avid project, which I will show you. So for the demonstration, I'm going to take a file from Avid, I'm going to send it to the Roscor Guardian Archive Server, have it archive it to both LTO4 drives, and then I'm going to restore it. If we go inside of the Avid Media Composer software, we will see a sequence here. I have some drag racing footage, and I'll just play that very quickly. You can see that I have a sequence with several clips and several effects contained inside of it, and I have an audio track as well. So what I do is in my bin, I select that sequence and I go into the file menu and export it out as what's called an AAF. An AAF will contain all the original media files, and it'll maintain the links to those files, more importantly. So then the files will be individual media files, but I'll still be able to go back and edit those files after I restore it. So it's an AAF file. I'm going to consolidate or copy just the media that's in that sequence, and I'm also going to embed it, the video and the audio, inside of that single file. And I'm just going to name that something easy to track. We'll just call it Drag Race in all caps. I'm going to export this then to the X drive inside of that folder, Guardian Demo. If I minimize the application while it's doing that, I can see that the Drag Race file, if I refresh it, will be showing up inside of the cache. There's my file, Drag Race AAF, and if I go inside and see the progress, starting to write to the drive on the first LTO, and essentially it says it wrote the file Drag Race AAF, and now it'll write to the second drive. And then it's going to check it, make sure it's succeeded. So now we see that it wrote to the second LTO drive, and now what it's going to do is delete it from the internal cache. So right now, if I refresh this view, you will see that the drag race is still available, and now it will actually turn to offline because it will be flushed from the cache. And now it has changed to status offline, AO, in the attributes folder. If I look at the thumbnail view, you can see there's a little icon here in the bottom left. Then it indicates that the file is offline. It's no longer stored on the cache. If I go back into the Zen Data Console, we will see a record of everything that I have done. You can also set up, like I have done already here, rules for excluding or including files. So if I had a series of files that I wanted to include in a folder, I would put them in here. And if I wanted to exclude certain files, I would put them in here. And then down here I have the disk retention rules that I've set up. Right now it's set up to immediately flush the cache or delete the files from the hard drive, but I could actually have it wait for hours or maybe a day or two before it does that. So I have customization here inside of the Zen Data Management Console for that. I also have the ability to run reports. So if I wanted to run a report on a specific tape, I can actually come inside of here, look for the tape cartridge contents, and run a report and actually export that out as a text file if I needed to, or an XML file. So I have the ability to track what's on those tapes if I want to as well. Moving back to the Avid software, now that I have my file archived, I'm going to simulate a situation where we delete all the media for the current project. So I'm just selecting all the files and I'm hitting the delete button to delete all that media, and now that file and all those audio and video files are offline. If I want to restore, I create a new bin and I import that single AAF file called drag race and open that up. What's happening now is if I go back to the remote desktop and look at the system log, you can see that it's actually accessing that drag race file. It says the command for restore has come in, and it restored the file from the LTO drive back to the cache, and now inside my Avid software, it's importing that image, media, and my entire sequence is back online. So a very simple example of a round trip, taking an Avid sequence, sending it to LTO4, and then restoring it. So keep in mind, this is just one example. If I wanted to archive an entire project, there are other pieces of software that can be used in conjunction with this, such as Media Mover for Avid or for Final Cut Pro. So that allows me to take all the files from an entire project and move it across into my LTO4 archive. I hope you enjoyed this quick presentation of the Roscor Guardian Archive server. If you have further questions, please contact your Roscor sales representative.